Good morning, my brothers and sisters. So here's the big question for the day. Is my mother in heaven? So today is my late mother's birthday, so I've got mother on the mind as I approach Psalm 53. So there's two kinds of people that are going to be described in this psalm. First of all, there's this big fool. Then there's another person that I'm going to describe as the little fool. So let's start with the big fool. Verse 1, Psalm 53. The fool says in his heart, there is no God. They are corrupt, doing abominable iniquity. There is none who does good. So Psalm 53 refers to a fool. And in the psalm, fool doesn't mean stupid. It doesn't mean low IQ. The fool here is one, despite all the evidence, come to the erroneous conclusion that there is no God. So either he doesn't exist, or worse, that he doesn't care and doesn't touch our world. So here, the fool has this assessment of one's posture towards God. It's an assessed conclusion is the point. After committed thought, this person ends up on this stand. And one of the big teaching points is, hey, don't be that big fool. Don't be big and bold and wrong. But many have come to this conclusion, and so that why might one come to this conclusion? Well, one might be this nefarious thing that you want to do certain behaviors, and you want to be unchecked by the heavenly hand, because if God exists and he is created, then he's got a right to say some things about right and wrong and personal moral codes. So if I don't want to check on my behavior, I will want to deny that God exists. And this is the fool that the psalm first talks about. The big fool is what I'm calling it. So back to your mother. If your mother was such a person, then all scriptural evidence would say that she is not in heaven. She chose to live away from the presence of God in this life, and then it would follow in the next life, she's also living away from the presence of God. So if your mother is a big fool, forgive me, she probably isn't heaven. Okay, but wait, there's more. Verse 2. God looks down from heaven on the children of man to see if there are any who understand, any who seek after God. This is verse 2. Verse 3, they have all fallen away. Together they have become corrupt. There is none who does good, not even one. So after the big fool, now there's a second warning, which I'm calling the little fool. And this one's more unpalatable, certainly more insidious than the big fool we just described. And here it is, there is none who does good. Compared to God, using godly judgment, godly glasses on, using the heavenly criteria, there is none who does good. Certainly not good enough. So no one will go before the judgment seat of Christ and independently say, I don't need you, I've got this, I'm okay, I've earned heaven. Not a single person will do that. Nobody can say, I've lived a perfect life, perfect. And that is the criteria. It's not, hey, do my deeds balance out my, good deeds, bad deeds? Was I a pretty good person? We always say, well, compared to who? We always pick, Hitler or Jeffrey Dahmer or something. No, we were all go cowering and remembering and regretting before God, because we're worthy of wrath, punishment, and banishment unless we have help. So if your mother tries to make it to be with the permanent presence of God on her own merits, accomplishments, and her goodness, then she will not be able to do it. Why? Because perfect holiness is required. So is your mother good enough to make it to heaven on her own merits? And I'm sorry to say this, by her goodness, the answer is no. So now, whether we want to make this comparison, we always choose someone, down the righteousness ladder. We never pick someone of higher righteousness. But the standard that God is using, and this is the sobering point, is perfection. It's not, Billy Graham or some Mother Teresa. It's perfection. So even Billy Graham and Mother Teresa come to the throne, needing the mercy of God. So this, ladies and gentlemen, mothers and daughters, sons and mothers, this is exactly why Jesus had to come. So the goodness of your mother is going to count for nothing in God's economy. It's the faith of your mother in the goodness of Jesus that will be the counting. So the book of Hebrews talks all about this most excellent Savior, better than angels, better than Moses, and that's Jesus, the high priest. And if we rely on Jesus, then in chapter 4, verse 16, it says, we can with confidence draw near to the throne of grace that we may receive mercy and find grace to help in the time of need. And what could be a bigger need than at the judgment seat? So how do we make it to heaven? By the merits of Jesus, not by the pretty good grading on the curve that we're apt to do. All right, so I'm going to go back to the fool to conclude this. The big fool is one who declares there's no God. The little fool is one who says, I'm pretty good. I'm better than a terrorist or something. But both are outside of the kingdom without the mercy of God. The heavenly gates are accessed by faith. Write that down. So our favorite thief on the cross, I think, best proves this doctrine. So here's a guy who had no time in his life for good works, and here's a guy who only had a moment for faith. And afterward, Jesus uses his precious breath, which he only had a few final breaths, to say of him, to him, and to all of us, for the future, today you will be with me in paradise. So in my humble opinion, this is all you need to know about heaven is in that single line. It's paradise. It's today. It's not accessed by works. It's accessed by faith. And heaven is the be with me. So in conclusion, is your mother in heaven? Will she go to heaven if she's still here on earth? Well, not if she's a big fool, one who spits in God's face. And not if she's the little fool, that's one who thinks she's pretty good and my deeds outweigh another. But yes, she will go to heaven if she says, I cannot make it any which way except by faith in the perfect Jesus, by the substitution of his payment for the penalty which he did for me. If so, then yes, your mother will be in heaven. Thanks for listening.